I'm only going to give it a go if I think that I can get it in.
Oh God, you don't want to hear, I'll give it a go.
And he went, I won't just keep trying. If I think that I can get it, then I'll do it. And I went, internally, absolute panic. Because oh God. So I said to him, and I'm not one to make a fuss. I'd never like make a fuss. I just sort of said to him, he must have seen the look of pure horror on my face. And I said to him, I was like, the cannulas, it makes me really anxious actually, the thought of the cannula going in. And he was like, don't worry, I'll only give it a go if I think that I can get it. And I was going, oh God.
No,
so he put it in.
Give it a go. Just
Please
either
don't give it a go.
Like Yoda says, do or do not. There is no try.
Fuck's sake. So my body's had enough this week.
Yeah, it's a bit much, isn't it, now?
Yeah.
Do you think maybe like this whole cancer thing, maybe it's not for you? Like, I mean,
you've given it a
go. You have. You've tried it.
10 out of 10 wouldn't recommend.
No. Okay.
Wouldn't recommend it to anybody.
Okay, well maybe just stop with it now.
Stop with the cancer.
Yeah. Just stop now, because it's enough.
I know. Well, this being the treatment that I'm having is optional, isn't it? So I can stop it if I want. It would go against recommendations, but I don't have to have it.
Don't stop the treatment.
Oh, I see.
Just stop with the cancer.
Oh, I don't have the cancer anymore.
Well,
the treatment is to make sure that I don't have the cancer, but
just decide that that's it now.
Good morning.
We've done it the other way around again.
Oh, for God's sake. People are going to be confused.
Jumping ahead.
Sorry.
Right. Morning.
That's
better.
Yeah.
What's up?
Nothing. What's up with you?
Everything. But I'm ignoring
everything. Life, yep.
So
we've got 2 shout outs to do.
Woohoo!
You've got the 2 shout outs to do, but they're decent ones, so
amazing week for us.
Yeah, it's been such a great week.
This coffee was sponsored by someone. And literally someone.
When that come through, it just said someone has donated to your buyers a coffee, and I was like,
and you thought,
that's so nice. That's exactly. I was like, oh, that's so nice, and then I clicked on it, and it just says someone.
Thank you, someone. You know who you are, and we so appreciate it. And this coffee is so delicious.
Yeah,
it's great. So we really super appreciate that, someone, and we're really pleased that you didn't include any of the names like dicks or erections.
Yeah, it was a nice clean shout out.
It was,
but still equally funny.
Yes,
still equally great.
There was a comedy moment. Someone's bought us coffee. Who?
Yeah.
Someone.
Yeah.
Yes, but who? Someone.
So thank you so much. Thank you
so much.
We're really pleased that you enjoy the ramblings of us.
Yes. And my next coffee, which I haven't made yet, which will be equally as delicious, was bought by Stephanie.
Yeah, thank you so much. When that come through, obviously she said good morning, like all the way from America. It was actually so cool. Midnight here.
Oh, was it?
When that come through, and that really, I love that people have different time zones and stuff, and that they're just waking up and starting their day, and we're just getting tucked into bed. I love that there's like such a difference in time zone. But yeah, that really made my
nice.
I didn't at midnight because I was asleep, but I woke up at like 4 o'clock to obviously let Graham out.
Obviously.
And I checked my phone and I saw it and I was like, oh, that's so great.
I'll tell you what's lovely is that Stephanie, so generous. Stephanie actually bought us 3 coffees. So I'm thinking that's a coffee for me, a coffee for you, Sarah, and a coffee for Stephanie. So we can all have a coffee together.
That sounds lovely.
That's nice, isn't it? That's so nice, and it's so generous, and it makes such a big difference to us because obviously we do have expenses to do this.
Yeah.
And I was saying to Sarah earlier, everything's costing me a fortune at the moment. I've got broken cars, broken generators, broken job, broken house.
Oh, I know. But we still have a podcast.
Yes, and things
we will
like
continue
that,
it.
honestly, makes such a huge, huge difference. That's something really super kind that you've done for someone, Stephanie, and someone.
And someone. Yeah, greatly appreciate it. So thank you.
It's made a big difference to our little souls this week. It's really made a big difference because I needed some kindness from people because everyone's been absolute gits lately. Not you, Sarah, but
no, I generally am quite kind, I think.
Yeah, you're not often a dick, are you? Oh, dick.
No.
I was gonna say git. Sorry.
It's a bit in a rage there, come out.
Sorry about that.
They're not normally the dick.
No, it's been a hard week.
Yeah. But no, thank you very much. Boy, have I got a story for you today.
I'm so intrigued. I've had no clues whatsoever. I'm like, what?
So me and Kate never know each other's stories. We do the research ourselves, and then we only hear the story for the first time when we tell it to each other. And Kate, when she does the editing, also does the editing for the YouTube video, and obviously includes lots of pictures and things of the things that we talk about, and
sound effects
and everything that makes the show great. So I sent across a lot of photos to you.
Loads.
Yeah, and there are more, but some of them give away what it was about, so I didn't send a lot of them. But I sent enough that you would be like, "What on earth?"
I know. I was like, "What?" Sending me random pictures of men.
Yeah,
like this doesn't happen.
Well, no, no, it does not. No. So this story actually is it's one that I wanted to do from the very beginning. I really wanted to do this from the very beginning, but I didn't know how well it would be received because it's something that really baffles me, really absolutely perplexes me. Good. But I didn't know how other people feel towards it. So I've hopefully written the story well enough that you will also be intrigued by it. And
I'm sure I will. I'm intrigued already.
And also be perplexed by it because I just don't understand it.
Okay.
So the story today is called Acquired Savant Syndrome. I don't know if you know what that is by the look of your face.
Sounds like foreign words.
So Savant Syndrome
is it like croissant syndrome?
It is not like, because that's not a thing. So Savant is SAVANT.
Okay.
Savant syndrome
sounds French.
It was actually. It derived from a French word which was called idiot savant.
Oh.
Which later was, we can't use that word. So it's when we're talking to the children, maybe, but
Oh, idiot.
Oh, idiot. So savant syndrome is a rare condition. It is a very rare condition. Where a person with various developmental disorders, so something they're born with. So normally autism it comes up in, but it could be people with sort of low IQ or anything like that. Any sort of something to do with the brain. They develop these amazing abilities, so amazing talents. You often hear of people with autism that are fantastic at the piano, and or the people with autism that are mathematical geniuses.
Yeah.
So that's savant syndrome. So that's something that they're born with. Something. It's normally an ability that relates to music, art, memory, or math.
All of those. I'm rubbish, so I don't have it.
You do not have that, no. Hayley, I was talking to Hayley about it, and she went, "Do I have that? Because I'm really good at maths."
She is. She's very good at art as well.
Yeah, but she also can't unlock the front door.
or grasp the fact that she can't breathe underwater.
Yeah. It's like, no.
No, you don't have that.
No. So, they're born with these abilities, and it's not just that they're good at these things. What makes it savant syndrome is that they're phenomenal, that it's like unparalleled, that they're born to do these things. That's what they're that's what makes them so good at it. So there are some famous savants. I don't know, you probably haven't heard of them. Lawrence Kim Peake, so I think he just generally goes by Kim Peake, was an American savant. He was actually known as a mega savant. And he's known for having superior memory, like phenomenal memory. He was born with I said this in my head clear as day when I wrote it down. I thought I'm gonna get this word out straight away, but he was born with macrocephaly, which is damage to the cerebellum. So Josie's gonna listen to this and she's gonna laugh at me, because years ago when she was mentioning the cerebellum, I said, "Who's that?" Because I thought it was a person.
And there's someone else called Sarah.
Cerebellum. I thought she was talking about a person. A cerebellum, for those of you that are on my wavelength, is a part of the brain. So he was born with this condition, and it was damage to his cerebellum, and he was also born with something else as well, which was a condition in which the bundle of nerves that connects the two hemispheres of the brain was missing. So these two hemispheres that normally connect was completely missing. So he had very limited fine motor skills. He couldn't button up his shirt, and he didn't walk until he was he was like 4 or 5 until he walked. And when he did, he walked sideways. Obviously, like later on in life, he walked straight, but he didn't have many. Because his right and his left side of his brain didn't communicate. So one leg went one, the other leg went one different way.
The other way.
So according to his father, Peake was able to memorize things from the age of about 16 to 20 months. It became clear that he had a superior memory. So he would read books and memorize them. He would memorize the entire book. And he would speed read as well. So he would read an entire book.
I'd love to be able to do that.
I'll tell you how he does it in a minute. He would read an entire book in about an hour and then just remember everything that he'd read. And even if you went back to him a year later, he'd be able to tell you everything, what was on that page. If you just said to him a certain page number, he'd be able to read you that page. So he read super fast by reading one page with his left eye and one page with his right eye. Yep. And he would read the page. Don't try and do it. You'll give yourself a headache. So he would read both pages of the book simultaneously and then take in all that information. I mean, I can't even, if I'm reading a book and someone's talking to me, I'm like, what? Or if I'm trying to write something and someone's talking, I end up writing what they're saying.
No, I have to have silence if I'm reading. Claire can read, sit next to me and read a book while I'm watching telly. I can't. Because if I'm I'll be listening to the telly and I can't concentrate on. I'm like this polar opposite of
So he was also able to do different things as well. So because of his superior memory, he could memorize most things, but he enjoyed generally reading, so that's what he memorized. But he also he would approach strangers, and he had a talent for calendar calculations, which he would ask them the date in which they were born, and he would tell them what day it was.
Oh, blimey.
And he would tell them what was on the front page of the newspaper of that day as well. And he'd appeared on television and things like that. But he was made famous. He was actually the inspiration for the character in Rain Man.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, so I don't know if you've seen Rain Man with Dustin
Many
Hoffman,
times. Many times.
1988. The man there had Savant syndrome, and Kim Peek was the inspiration for that film.
Oh,
So
that all makes a lot more sense to me now when I think
Yeah.
about Rain Man. Yeah.
Yeah. So after that film is when these other savants kind of people started being intrigued by it, and they kind of started getting media attention and things like that. So that he's the most notable, I think, savant. But this one you may know of. You might not know him by name, but you'll know him by face. His name is Cody Lee. And he is a Korean American singer-songwriter and pianist. And he was born with optic nerve hypoplasia, which means he was completely blind, legally blind.
Oh, blimey.
And he was also diagnosed with autism at a very early age, and also Addison's disease. And he rose to fame after he appeared on season 14 of America's Got Talent.
Oh, really?
And ultimately won the show. And I didn't recognize the name, but then when I watched, because I thought I love America's Got Talent.
You do.
Love it. So when I looked it up, I was like, oh, I remember him. So he was a fantastic singer, pianist, and that was completely blind, but he played piano like nobody's business. And so after he won Britain's Got Talent, he had like 50 million views on YouTube. And he was actually the golden buzzer when he appeared on America's Got Talent. He was so good that he got the golden buzzer. He's released other albums as well, other songs, and he was in America's Got Talent All Stars, and he made it to the final of All Stars as well.
I didn't know that was a thing. Was that people that have won
people that have been not always won, but got to the finals or something like that.
Done really well, yeah,
done really well in the other ones. They had the Britain's Got Talent All Stars as well. I don't know if you saw that. Not as good as the American ones. The American one's much better. Also, a gentleman called Stephen Wiltshire, who's an MBE, actually. And he's a British architectural artist who is also autistic. And he is best known for his ability to draw landscape from memory. He would just see it once and then be able to draw it.
I think I've seen something of his. Or maybe. I've seen him do something, or I don't know.
Yep.
I've seen someone do that before, where they've looked at a view, and then later in the day, someone says to them, "Here's a pen and a paper. I think I saw them draw the London skyline."
Yeah.
And he included like all the windows and where street lamps were and everything, and it was identical.
Yeah, that probably was him.
Yeah.
When Stephen was 5, he began to draw just like animals and cars and things, obsessively draw animals and cars. And even now, he has an encyclopedic knowledge of cars. That's a big word to use, an encyclopedic knowledge.
That's 2 words.
No. I've got an encyclopedia.
Do you?
I've got an encyclopedic knowledge of Harry Potter and Friends, and that's as far as I can go with my knowledge of anything.
Yeah.
But when he was about 7, he became absolutely fascinated with sketching London landmarks, London buildings. And actually, at the age of I think it was 8 or 9, he got his first commissioned piece.
Wow.
Of drawing a sketch of the Salisbury Castle Cathedral.
Salisbury.
You know what? I knew I was saying it wrong, because when I was an estate agent, we used to have Salisbury Road, and everybody used to go, "Do you mean Salisbury?" But it's spelt Salisbury.
Yeah.
So I always used to say Salisbury, and when I said it, I thought, something's wrong there. Salisbury Cathedral.
All right.
So at the age of 8, he was commissioned by the former Prime Minister Edward Heath.
Wow.
I know. So obviously he was just fantastically gifted. So he could, and what I said earlier is that he could just look at it once and then remember it, draw it. So
I'd love to have that brain.
he would draw entire cities just based on a single helicopter ride over it. So he produced a detailed drawing of 4 square miles of London.
Jesus.
Just after a helicopter ride above the city. He also produced a 19-foot long drawing of 305 square miles of New York City.
Jesus.
Based on a 20-minute helicopter ride. So for 20 minutes, he went over this 305 square miles of New York and then went home and drew a 19-foot long image of the area.
Yes.
Yeah. So these are all people that have been diagnosed with Savant syndrome, and they were born with these gifts. They were born with cognitive difficulties in other aspects, but they were born with these gifts.
So it's like something's taken it away from one area and added it to this one area where they can just remember everything. And
there's been a lot of research, a lot of studies and experiments done on the brain as to why some people, because they say we only use 10% of our brain.
Yeah.
As to why other people can form these different pathways that we can't. So there's been a lot of studies on it, but I'll get to that a bit later.
Okay.
So all of these examples that I've given you are savants. But what baffles me, that what I can't understand, is acquired savant syndrome. So these are people that are not born with these gifts and that are not born with anything, but they acquire them later in life.
Oh, so there's still hope for me.
I will tell you how they acquire it, so let's not. Just come to them. They acquire these extraordinary skills after a traumatic brain injury or illness. You had
I had traumatic brain injury.
Yeah.
Or surgery.
Yeah.
Oh my God, I'm one of them.
No.
I'm a genius, Sarah.
Okay. Well, I will tell you a few stories of some acquired savants, and then you can tell me whether you fit into the same category.
All right, I'm going to make myself fit, but go on.
So there's only about 40 cases worldwide ever of acquired savants. So it's not a common thing to happen with a brain injury, but it does happen to some people. So I'm just going to go through a few different people and what happened to them. They're basically their stories, what happened to them, what skill they acquired. Cool. So the first gentleman is Derek Amato, and he is from Colorado.
Oh, that's my dream place to live,
Colorado.
Love it.
So all throughout his life, he didn't really aspire to much. He kind of had no direction of where he wanted his life to go, and he'd done sort of various menial jobs. He'd done some sales jobs, he'd done some baseball coaching and different sort of menial jobs, and even at one point he was even homeless and spending nights on the streets, so he didn't really have any sort of special skills. But when he was 39, Derek was visiting his parents' hometown in South Dakota when he was invited to a friend's house for a game of football. Not football like we know it, but American football.
Woo, go Pats!
And what happened was, I think obviously he was lad, trying to show off. And he was standing at the edge of the swimming pool. As the guys threw the ball, he'd planned to do this jump, dive and catch of the ball into the swimming pool. But that's not what happened.
Oh God.
So what happened was he ended up diving head first into the swimming pool and he hit the concrete floor.
Oh geez.
So he kind of came up and he was trying to alert everybody, I'm injured.
Yeah.
I'm hurt.
No.
He suffered a severe concussion and he had blood streaming from his ears.
Oh God.
Yeah. So Derek actually ended up in a semi-coma. He kind of says that he wasn't in a coma, but he also wasn't there. he wasn't kind of with it. So he's drifting in and out of consciousness over the next few days. But a few weeks later, he kind of had like partial deafness from the accident, frequent headaches, and also memory loss. He said that sometimes he could remember things from ages ago, but other times he couldn't remember anything like you would just say to him. But 4 days after the accident, he was at his friend's house, one of the guys who'd been with at the swimming pool. So this friend actually had a makeshift music studio in his garden, and Derek noticed that there was an electric keyboard in there, and he said he just kind of gravitated towards it. He'd never played keyboard, never played any instrument before, but what happened was he just gravitated to this keyboard and just immediately started playing it. And he produced melodies. His friends said, quoted, that he produced melodies so beautiful that it actually brought them to tears.
Goodness.
And they would have assumed that he'd had like classical piano training, all this like this training, but he'd never had anything. He'd never played the piano in his life. So he just he said that he could hear the music. He could hear it in his head, and he wanted to get it out, so he would just play. He ended up being in his friend's house for 6 hours and just playing this keyboard for 6 hours.
Oh, that's mad, isn't it? Suddenly, like, discover that it just all comes naturally to you, and you can produce this music that you can sort of hear in your own head.
Yeah,
that must be so cool.
He also started, so this is how he makes his living now as a musician. He composes music for orchestras. He says it'll wake him up at night hearing all the music, and he has to write it down. So he'll write down he never played the violin, but he'll write down the violin music that he's hearing for other people to play. And so that's what he does now. He composes music for others, for orchestras, and he's got his own music that he works on as well. I think he's got an album out. He's sort of like works with singers as well, and so that's how he makes his living now. The next gentleman that I'm going to tell you about is a gentleman called Alonzo Clemens. So Alonzo was born in, again, Colorado in 1958. He's lived his whole life there, and he was a normal little boy. He had no developmental incident. He was a normal little boy. But when he was about 4 years old, he had a fall, and he suffered severe brain injury because of this fall. And this brain injury left him with a developmental disability, and he actually had an IQ of around 40, and a mental development of a 6-year-old. So he never progressed past that. But from then, his only interest was of moulding clay. If he couldn't get hold of clay, he would get hold of anything that he could mould. And he said if he wasn't moulding things, he was incredibly unhappy.
Hope they didn't have a dog.
Just start moulding it. So the accident left him barely able to speak. He couldn't read, he couldn't write, he couldn't drive a car, couldn't sort of tie his shoes. So he lived, eventually would live by himself, in a house. He was cared for a lot. But he had at one point over 500 clay models in his room that he would just make one, put it down, make another one, put it down, just constantly creating these things. But his talent for the clay and sculpting sort of started pretty much straight away after his accident. So it says he would use butter, lard, bitumen,
bitumen.
Yeah, that's what it was. But he would only use his hands. He didn't use any tools or anything like that. He would just sculpt with these hands. So for 20 years, he sculpted just unrecognized, just in his, like I say, in his bedroom. He had over 500 sculpted clay or butter models, until the movie Rain Man come out. And then because of that film, it then almost popularized these gifted people. So Alonzo soon gained a lot of media attention and actually fame. So most of his artwork is small, like little figures. Most of them are animals, and he would sculpt them in less than an hour. They would be incredibly detailed, and he would sculpt them in an hour. But he's produced a life-size sculpture, and his first life-size, I don't know why I can't say that.
Just tripping up on a word.
Life-sized piece of work that he done. It was called 3 Frolicking Foals.
Oh, good job you didn't mess that up. Jeez.
3 Frolicking Foals, and it's basically 3 horses. I think it's 1 horse and 2 foals. Or
are they frolicking?
They look like they're frolicking. I tell you that much.
Well, I'm glad that they're frolicking and not something.
Guess how much it sold for?
No.
$45,000.
Jeez.
And that was in 1987. So he would have been like 29 at that age.
Yeah.
And it only took him 15 days to do. Just constantly doing it, no break in between.
Like obsessing over it, and like just got to get it out before it goes out of my head. Or
that's exactly what it was.
Wow.
It was like an obsession, just constantly doing these things. So he actually says that he feels like it's something. It's not something he can do. It's something he has to do.
Right.
It's like this inner urge to do it. It's not just like, oh, I like doing that. It's like he has to do it.
Yeah.
And he's got a website as well. And there's tons of clay, the sculptures. They're the ones that I sent you. That you've got some of the pictures of them. And they range between sort of $500 to $8,000. He also does pastel drawings as well, which are all pretty much of animals, and they're all dead cute. He's also a weightlifter as well.
Oh.
Yeah, just throw that in there. He lifts weights, but so from the age of about 4, after he had this traumatic brain injury, he just then started creating these clay sculptures, which are all phenomenal. So either go on the website, his name is Alonzo Clemens, have a little look at them, or watch the YouTube video, because we'll put all the pictures in there as well. But they're fantastic, some of the ones that he's done. This one I've known about for ages, this gentleman, and it's one of the reasons that I started looking into it. And this is a gentleman called Orlando Serrell. And Orlando Serrell was born in 1968. And on the 17th of August 1979, when he was about 10 years old, Orlando was playing baseball when he was hit in the head, the left side of the head, with the baseball. Hard enough that it knocked him over. Didn't knock him out. It knocked him down to the ground. And obviously he felt pain in his head where the ball had hit him. But he got back up and he carried on playing. And it wasn't really of much to note. He didn't even go home and tell his parents that it had happened. He didn't receive any medical treatment for it or anything like that. But for a long time after the accident, he suffered with frequent headaches. And when the headaches eventually passed, he discovered that he had a new amazing ability. From the day of the accident onwards. Orlando developed the ability to perform calendar calculations, which are amazing. Most of them ascertain to weather. So even days prior to the accident, he can tell you on any day or date what the weather was on that day.
That's crazy, isn't it?
So even before this accident happened, when he was like 8, 9, whatever age he was, he could tell you what the weather was. He could tell you what day of the week it is. So you could give him a date. So like the 15th of May, 1974. And he would tell you what day actually, whether it's a Monday or
what the weather was like.
What the weather was like.
Jeez.
And also, if you give him a date or when he was alive, he can tell you what exactly he was doing, what he was wearing.
No way.
Yeah, it's just like these ridiculous memory. There's an interview that you can watch with him, and he's just like, they just give him a date, and it's like, oh yeah, it was a Thursday. That was a Thursday, and this is what I was doing, and we had barbecue, and we had this on the barbecue, and I was wearing this, and they were wearing that.
Jeez.
Mental.
I don't know if that would be a good thing or a bad thing, though. Do you know what I mean? Imagine like remembering like absolutely everything.
Yeah.
I feel like my head would get like blocked up with.
I think everybody remembers everything, but it's your ability to be able to recall that memory.
Yeah, like you do it's in a storeroom. Yeah.
Yeah, it's all in there. It's just your ability to then pluck that out, because there'll be things in there that you haven't remembered that you remembered, and then all of a sudden you smell something and you go, oh my God, that reminds me of whatever it was.
It's like
which is crazy.
repressed memories as well, isn't it?
Yeah, yeah. And
Like
then you can get them out with hypnosis and stuff.
You have absolutely no knowledge of it whatsoever, and then it starts coming out and you're like, where did that come from?
The next gentleman, his name is Tony Sikoria, I'm going to go for. So this happened when Tony was 42 years old. So up until the age of 42, he lived an incredibly normal life. And he was actually struck by lightning while standing next to a public telephone. And he just hung up the telephone, just finished his phone call. See you later. Have a lovely day. Hung up his telephone call.
See you in a minute.
Yeah, I'll be home for tea. And so he just hung up the thing, stepped outside the phone box and got hit by lightning. Okay. And he said he recalled seeing his own body on the ground.
Oh.
So what had happened was his heart stopped. So the lightning had sort of gone through his shoulder and out his foot. So he'd suffered massive burns through his, like, down the side of his face and his shoulder and then out of his foot. But he was actually, there was a woman who was waiting in line to use the payphone who was an intensive care nurse, and she resuscitated him.
Oh, that's lucky.
I know.
He died. He had like an out of body experience.
Yeah, he said that he remembers seeing his body on the ground surrounded by bluish white light. I have no idea.
That'd be the lightning.
Yep. Yep. Something to smoke.
I can see it.
So several weeks after the accident, he actually consulted a neurologist because he was having difficulties with his memory and he was feeling really sluggish and things like that. So he had the neurological exam. He had EEG and an MRI, and it didn't find anything unusual. And after a few weeks, he sort of felt back to normal when he went back to work. That was about 2 weeks later after the accident. And he went back to work and he was fine. And then over a period of about 2 or 3 days after he got, his headache started to go and his memory came back and he was feeling a bit better, he became struck with this like insatiable desire to listen to piano music. So he actually bought himself a piano and then just started playing it. It's the same. It's very similar to the first guy, Derek.
Yeah.
And that he could hear this music, and he said it was like his head was just flooded with this music, and it just came out of nowhere. So Tony, now actually, he's gone on to write and perform his own music compositions across theatres, not across theatres, but in theatres across the US. What is today?
Not cool, Sarah. Not cool. It's because we've been disturbed. It's other people's influence. Other people are disturbing us. Everyone get lost.
Get lost.
Yeah.
This is our time.
Yeah, it's not cool, guys.
Not cool. So that is also now how he makes his living. That's after amazing. 42 years of being something else. I think he was like a chiropractor or something like that.
Well, it's still pretty good job, isn't it? Blimey.
Yeah, he had a decent job. Yeah. He had no musical influences, and then bam, lightning hit.
Bam, Susie, on your back.
Yeah, literally bang, lightning hit, and then and then now he's a musical genius. This next guy, so there's like 40. I said, didn't I, about the acquired savants? A lot of them have got that just sort of had falls and brain injuries and things like that. But I tried to pick out the ones that I've picked out have all had very different brain injuries. So the next gentleman, his name is Jason. Jason Paget. Friday the 13th, unluckily enough. 2002 this happens. So when Jason was 32. So again, lived his life completely normally up until the age of 32. He went out to a local karaoke bar with his friends in Washington. And as he was leaving the bar, he was hit in the back of the head. And what he describes is that he said he saw a white light, like a photo camera flash. He felt dizzy, and then he fell down. He lost consciousness. And when he came back, he didn't know where he was or how he got. He was really confused. And as he tried to stand up, he was attacked. So these two men attacked him, punched him, kicked him, and his friends didn't really do anything. They just kind of stood there like, oh, not cool, guys.
No, not cool.
Not cool. They didn't intervene or anything. So the attackers, they robbed him, but they just took his jacket. They didn't take his wallet or anything, and his wallet actually contained a couple of $100. So it was kind of almost like a senseless attack.
Yeah.
They robbed him of his jacket, and that was it. So he obviously went to the hospital. Doctors diagnosed him with a badly bruised kidney and a severe concussion. To which he just received some medication, and then he was sent home that night.
Oh.
The day after the attack, though, Jason said he felt very strange, and he thought it was the effect of the medication that they'd prescribed him. But after that, he started displaying signs of OCD, so obsessive compulsive disorder, and post-traumatic stress disorder as well. So he developed that after the attack. And he said he also began to see the world differently. So he started to see things almost as if they were made up of shapes. So he said water now looked like tangent lines, and light became rays made up of lines and spirals. So a lot of what he was seeing, the images that he was seeing, corresponded to geometry and physics. But he had no idea. He'd never studied anything like that at all. But he said somehow he knew it was all related to pi. Now, my knowledge of pi is very
everything is.
Yeah.
Everything comes down to pi.
Yeah. So he began I love pi. He began drawing the shapes that he would see. And he said the drawing became therapeutic, and it actually helped manage his OCD and his PTSD, and just to do these drawings that he would see. So he would take his drawing pad everywhere that he went. And one day a man approached him and asked him about his drawings. I think he said he was walking through the park. He'd taken his drawing pad, he's walking through the park, and he could see elements of, these words mean nothing to me, by the way, but he said you could see elements of Pythagorean theorem and geometric tangent lines dissecting all across the pavement. So this gentleman saw him in the park and doing these drawings, and he actually asked him about something that he wanted to do. And this is a quote from him. Again, my mathematical knowledge isn't what it used to be. So I don't really know what any of this means, but I'll read you the quote.
You're forgiven.
Yep. So the man said to him, "I'm trying to describe the discrete structure of space-time based on Planck length, in brackets, a tiny unit of measurement developed by physicist Max Planck, and quantum black holes." It turns out the man that was talking to Jason was a physicist, and so he recognized these drawings that Jason was doing, and he actually urged Jason to take a maths class, like a higher, not just a maths class like we would take, but like a higher level, like geometry type maths class. So he did that, and he enrolled into community college, and he said that he began to understand this almost like language that he was drawing in. So he says he now views the attack as a gift. So although it was a senseless attack at the time, he now thinks that it was a positive thing, because he's gone on to like make all of this artwork and sell it, and he's actually given TED Talks as well.
Oh yeah. And
Studio Sony have picked up the rights to make a movie about his life.
Wow.
And he's got a website as well, and his website is, I sent you some of the pictures, didn't I?
Yeah.
They're immense, and the ones
so detailed.
So detailed, and they're all very, very precise lines and drawings. And they're not things that he's done on the computer. They're actual drawings, because original drawings of his, of those that I sent you, they go for about $3,000. And the prints you can buy that are obviously a lot cheaper, but the original drawings are ridiculous. But not only does he sell the drawings on his website, he sells pretty much anything you could get. He sells yoga mats that have got these designs on.
I'm not
duvet
surprised.
covers. that have got these designs on.
They're mesmerising, aren't they?
They're honestly so good. The duvet covers are great to look at. You
Yeah,
go
I
on
bet.
his website, it's just Jason Paget, and you'll be able to find his website. There's so much on there, and they're all drawings, but they're not drawings like, you know, a scene. They're these geometric shapes almost. And the last gentleman that I am going to tell you about is Patrick Fagerberg. And again, Patrick was 42 when this happened. He went to a music show with some of his friends, and a few seconds after the concert started, a 400-pound camera boom fell
Oh
on the
no.
audience, on his head, injuring it directly on the head, which knocked him out.
I'm not surprised.
So he was rushed to the hospital and had tests and CT scans and things, and he was sent home that night.
Right.
And the medic said that, you know, his neck wasn't broken and there was no skull fractures or anything like that, so he was fine. However, 2 days later, Patrick said he was having trouble putting sentences together and reading. And in the next sort of following days afterwards, he began showing symptoms of raccoon eyes and bleeding from the ears. And it turned out he did have a small skull fracture and was diagnosed with a traumatic brain injury. So he then spent the next year and a half attending physical therapy, cognitive therapy, and speech therapy. And during one of his cognitive therapy sessions, it was suggested to Patrick that he try and do some art therapy. So while taking these classes, he began to develop this sudden urge to paint, and he'd never painted before in his life. A year and a half into painting, he had 300 artworks under his name. He was like a phenomenal artist. He's got his art in a gallery in Houston, Texas. Patrick's artwork has been described as representing large-scale cosmical events. They're not like drawings, like a scenery drawing. They're these things that he would just see, like cosmical events, and he would see them and he would paint them, and they're phenomenal as well. But not only did he acquire this skill for painting, he also acquired a skill of creating things, manufacturing things. And in 2020, Patrick created the first ever electric vehicle to use an asymmetrical wheel, and he decided to name his creation the Rodasurf. And it's basically like a surfboard with one wheel on it that you ride on the pavement or on the road.
I feel like I've seen that.
Yeah, probably.
Like a skateboard, but
it's a bit like a skateboard. Yeah, it's an electric surfboard for the road.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ooh.
So there are other acquired savants. You know, there's people. These are just the ones that I picked because I wanted to try and pick ones that had different brain injuries. They all kind of suffered something different. One was a lightning strike, one was hit on the head with a camera boom, and one was hit in the head with a baseball. You know, one was beaten up. So they're all kind of different brain injuries that they've had, and they all kind of have developed something different from it, whether it's a memory skill or whether it was music or art. Some people they acquire the ability to speak a different language.
Yeah, I've heard that, where
they wake up from a coma and then they can speak fluent French. Like, where does that come from? Where does that knowledge of music come from? And how can you just automatically know how to do it? So is that something that's in all of us? You know, can I play the piano brilliantly, but just not be able to reach that part of my brain to do it?
Well, because part of me thinks that it might be something that's linked to like previous lives. You know, like you suddenly get thrown back into like a memory of being able to play the piano really, really well and creating all this beautiful music and that. And it's like that bit kind of, you get a bang on the head and it kind of jolts you back and you kind of remember that. You know, like you were saying before about you've got those memories.
Yeah.
But it's being able to recall them.
Yeah.
maybe it's something to do with that, like previous experience where in a past life you have learnt to play the piano, or you have learnt to, I don't know.
Yeah, well, scientifically, they think that there's no clear explanation for acquired savant syndrome. There's none at all. So there's various hypotheses that people have come up with. So one suggests that the impact from a direct hit on the head disables a part of the left brain, or the left hemisphere of the brain, that determines logic and filters what comes out from the right brain, which is the part that's the creative bit. So because there's not that, there's not a stopper, I guess. The creativity just kind of flows.
Yeah, I get that. It's the part of your head that like reasons with it and says,
no, you can't do that.
You wouldn't be able to play the piano like that because you've
haven't
never learned.
Yeah. There's like a filter that's been disabled. The left part of the brain is acting as a filter between from the right side, and because this filter has been disabled, the creativity just comes out.
That's so cool, isn't it?
Yeah, there's another hypothesis that suggests that the impact releases neurotransmitters that create new pathways in the brain that you can tap into this well, it says embedded talent, but again, why is it embedded? Why have we got this embedded talent? Because I know that when you're learning to ride a bike, you do create these new pathways, these new links and things, which is why, you know, if you see people that have got no arms, they use their feet, and they use their feet just like arms, because they do that because they've learned it over and over again, and they've created this pathway in their brain to be able to do that. I don't get, if you've never learned to play the piano, that pathway is not going to be there. I don't know. It's only created via repetition. So I don't understand it. And that's why I chose the story, because it fascinates me that they could have a bump on the head and then be an absolutely phenomenal artist. Whereas, you know, a week ago, they couldn't draw a stick man.
Yeah.
It really, really baffles me. There's been so many experiments, scientific experiments and things like that on the brain and things, and they can't really understand why it happens. But it kind of is evidence that we generally don't use all of our brain. We do generally use 10% of our brains. So there's all of that untapped geniusness in all of us.
I'm going to go and try some stuff.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, just
You've got a piano in your house.
I've got a piano. I'll just go and give that a tinkle and see what happens.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you ever get the feeling that you're really, really good at something, but you don't know what it is?
No. I always get the feeling that I'm really good at everything. So the other day, the electrics in my car wasn't working, and I said to Josie, I took it to the mechanic and they couldn't fix it because they said it requires a specialist. And I brought it at home and I said to Josie, I'm going to fix this. I was so confident that I could fix the electrics in my car. Because I just
Did you blow Josie up?
No, I did not fix the electrics in my car.
To be fair, I haven't seen her today, so.
No, she's aware. But no, I often get the feeling that I'm incredibly good at a lot of things, but when it comes down to it, not.
No, I mean, I think you do a lot of things well. I'm of the same mindset. No, it goes to show last week when I was telling you or telling everyone about the laptop.
Fixing your laptop, yeah.
I'm always looking for, I could be really good at that. So
yeah,
I've always got that mindset of, if it belongs to me and I give it a go and it doesn't work, then it's only sort of disappointing for me.
Yeah.
But yeah, I do that with a lot of things where I think I reckon I could do that myself.
Yeah, I do that with a lot of things, but
two things I won't touch, and that's mains electricity and anything to do with like the plumbing, like in the house or anything like that, because I'm terrified that I'm going to cause a flood.
I did fix our power shower.
I will be doing that. Oh,
yeah,
really?
I did fix our power shower. It started like leaking, like absolutely pissing out the side, the water from inside the shower main bit on the wall.
Oh.
And I was like, I'll fix it. Absolutely, you can fix that. Yeah, of course I can. Let's turn the water off. Found the stopcock, and then I turned the electrics off, and I fixed it.
Well, there you go.
And I resealed. Yep, and I resealed the bath yesterday. Never done it before, but I've done a bang up job.
Nice.
Yep, but not quite the same as a Savant. I don't think.
Not yet.
Yet.
Next time I see you, I'll have my baseball bat ready.
For some reason, I thought I'm not good at baseball. There's no point. I thought you meant that's going to be another skill that I was going to try, but
well, yeah, like when you asked me to send you the recording so that you could edit it.
Yep.
Yeah, these things happen a lot.
Yeah, they do. They really do. But anyways, that's a story that I decided to choose because it's quite different from the other stories that we've done. But it's no less perplexing. If you have enjoyed listening to our episodes, make sure you rate us and leave us a review on whatever platform you are listening.
We absolutely love hearing from you guys. So you can also help support our show by donating to our Buy Me a Coffee link. We will make sure that you get a massive shout out and a big thank you in our next week's episode.
You can also follow us on social media at Perplexed Podcasts. We're on Facebook, Instagram, and if you want to see more videos and blooper reels, subscribe to our TikTok and YouTube channels.
You can also email us your stories at perplexedpodcasts@gmail.com.
And you can find all the relevant links in the episode descriptions. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.